I promised myself that I wouldn't focus on the crazies all that much, but I just can't help myself that there are some bizarre people in this world who spout the most atrocious shit. And Guru, Kaz, Franco Toddler, and Mark from Canberra, Mark Canberra he calls himself, were on this show with Kaz and Guru, and I'm most I'm fascinated by these people because number one is there's some things about them that I admire. I admire that they are able to generate a following that they do, and to be fair, on their BitChute channel, they get a couple of hundred people watching. I'm convinced that most of those people that are watching are not people like me who just think they're nuts, but are people who believe a lot of the stuff that they spout. And so I wanted to cover some of the things, just two of the things I guess that they're talking about, and have a conversation about whether or not you think this shit is shit. Now, I also admire them because they present themselves they go and face up to governors and to politicians, and they ring the media, and they want as much coverage as they can. And look, I've attempted to enter politics as well, and I understand exactly what the system is like. I'm not a great believer necessarily in the nature of the political system. It needs to change in certain respects, particularly in terms of transparency. But and so I get all of that, and I do believe that their heart, their belief system, for them is in the right place. So believe me, I'm not having a distinct go at them. Oh yes, I am. So, and the reason why I say that is because it's hard not to. It's just hard not to watch some of these people express themselves in the way that they do. And to disprove their arguments is so damn simple. But they believe it. And my issue is that that even though they don't necessarily have any great intellectual input, they do have a genuine need to want to change our system and the government. Not necessarily in a way that I think is helpful, because I would think that if people like Ricardo Bossi ever got in, he would just be destructive. It would be, Pauline Hanson by 20. And I just don't think any of that would be helpful politically, nor it would be helpful to any of us, because basically the guy's a fascist. So, and I think he uses these sort of people to get what he wants. He's not at all interested in necessarily what they're fighting for, I don't think. He just wants to use them to get his voice across. So, Guru is standing in the New South Wales election with Bossi and a whole host of others. And he discovered, I think, that the system wasn't exactly the way he had imagined it to be, because he'll be sitting second or third on Bossi's ticket, which means no way in the world he'll ever get in. Bossi's an outside chance, I would suggest, for the Legislative Council in New South Wales. So, maybe he came to the realisation when he went in today to put forward their ticket, that he came to realise that perhaps things weren't he's not going to be as successful as he thinks, because his enthusiasm level for all of this has diminished somewhat. So I'll bring us to the video, and I'm not going to play. How long does it go for? An hour or so? I'm certainly not going to bore you with their hour of shit, but I'm just going to give you a taste of these dudes. Now, I think it's important for us to understand that they exist, that there are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. They ironically declare themselves as not being conspiracy theorists. Given the things they say and talk about, it's hard to think of them as anything else but conspiracy theorists. But they don't want to be labelled with that because it has negative connotations, and they're real people with real issues, and they want to be taken seriously. I get all of that, but when you're spouting this sort of crap, there's no way in the world that the majority of the people would ever take you seriously, and they don't offer any real solutions either. That's the other thing. Get rid of the government, get rid of the police force, get rid of ATO, abolish everything and start with what? Their version of what reality is, which is a bit dubious to say the least. So let's see what they have to say, and then we will have a discussion.
All right, good evening once again, family. How are you? We're, guys, I know I say this every night, but mate, are we going good? All right, they're at us again. All right, they're at it. Just dropped a couple of pages. But
no, it's back up.
They're going back up now. But listen, it's on, guys. All right.
So yes, and to their credit, I'm not objecting to this. To their credit, they have a whole host of social media outlets that they go to. But they keep getting kicked off Facebook. They get kicked off YouTube. So the major outlets they get. So they probably find their place in more right-wing outlets like BitChute and stuff, where just right-wingers and conspiracy theorists will listen to their shit. But they keep getting. So the other day they had 8 of these, and good on them. If you can put your site on all these other ones, if you can get to all these other web channels and social media outlets, then go for it, I reckon. But they keep getting kicked off them though. I just find that amusing, for what it's worth.
Now, what we've had happen, all right, since I had a little rant about our gay pride, and we're going to get into the show a little bit more.
Now, he had this thing, and I'm not 100% of the full story, so I can't talk about it, but there was an issue about the surf lifesaving clubs and the nippers, and something about gay people teaching them or lecturing them or giving them a swimming I don't know what it was really, but anyway, he got into the shit because he objected to this because he's homophobic, and he believes that this stuff should not be demonstrated at any form in any way. As I've said many times, I think a lot of this is projection. A lot of these guys are just fearful of their own sexuality, and therefore they're afraid. Therefore, that they exhibit that by discussing other people's version of their own sexuality, and they don't like that because it kind of, at some level, possibly reflects their own. So this is what this sort of discussion is all about.
We got Mark going to have a chat about Canberra, and then we got Franco in the studio, and hopefully Jackie's coming in to have a talk about what's gone up there at Woy Woy, getting the event cancelled. Guys, they're panicking in all avenues, all right? But what's happened to me now is they've put an article out in the Illawarra.
No, mate, they're cancelling you because you're... I don't know whether Guru gets it, and I don't know why he calls himself Guru. That interests me. What sort of narcissist gives himself a title such as Guru, like you know everything? But the reality is that there are lots of people out there who find them just offensive. Let's face it. That's the only reason why they can get on some of these channels that they do, these right-wing channels, is because they're offensive. Here they are on mine. And I find them offensive as well. But I also find them very entertaining.
Warren Mercury, and this is another lawsuit, guys. I don't know, I'm keeping up with them all, but I tell you what.
Here we go. So this is everybody who attacks him, he sues. So he says he sues. He doesn't sue because he hasn't got the capability of knowing how to sue somebody, and is not he doesn't know enough legalese to be able to do that appropriately anyway, I wouldn't think. Watch this next bit, though, because this is a killer.
We got any budding lawyers out there want to help with a few of these things? Come on board.
Now, get ready for the retraction.
But we don't want lawyers, actually. So, yeah, forget that. Cool, actually.
No, because we
got to do this shit ourselves, guys.
Because they're part of the system.
But, yeah, now they've said they're going to cancel the whole of the Illawarra Nippers next week, which is the last weekend, I think. They're going to cancel that. So, because...
And I think this is because there's somebody in his group, he says it's not him, and maybe it isn't. But because he stirred this up, someone in his group has attacked the Surf Lifesaving Club, and they now don't feel safe doing whatever it was that they were going to be doing on the weekend. And he's responsible for that, I think, but he's not prepared to take responsibility for that. He will probably blame somebody else, as a lot of cowards tend to do.
Because they've supposedly had threats at Thurrool Surf Club. Now, as God is my witness, I have not even rung Thurrool Surf Club, but I've been blamed for it. So, Illawarra Mercury, you're going to get sued. Okay?
He hasn't, because he spouts this shit, and then other people take it up, because this is what people like he do, and this is the part of them that really annoy me, and that crazy people take it up and they act upon it, and so he sits back and says, well, it wasn't me, not prepared to admit that to some extent he may have influenced other people. So it's kind of like the Trumpian syndrome, I didn't do it, other people did it, I didn't encourage them, but, I do say some things that perhaps I shouldn't say from time to time. Not that they'd ever admit that either. But, they're not careful about what they say and how that influences some of the crazies on their side.
It is coming for you. All right, you guys are panicking that much. So what this is about, guys, is defaming me in the community here. All right, that, conspiracy theorists. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Everything.
No, Jesus, there is no group that's right into conspiracy. And I'll show you one of those conspiracy theories in just a moment, and then I'll debunk it. But no one, of course, no one blames. They're not even. Can't even take responsibility for the fact that they're full of conspiracies. And you'll love this bit in a moment where he says he's always been proved right.
Everything I've ever fucking said's come right.
Oh, there we go.
But they won't come on. We got to get these people on the show to debate this stuff anyway.
That is a load of crap. He never gets anybody from the other side, my side of politics, for example, to come on his show and debate it. And even if they are someone like me, or he wanted to come on my show, I would never let this man on in a million years, because it's easier for me to be able to sift through his crap like I'm doing right now than to have him sit and argue that shit in front of me. And to talk to you about that. If you want to watch it, go to his channel and watch it from there. But you're not going to get much more than what I'm offering tonight, and that's about it, I think.
But so filthy lying scumbag MSM is at it again, guys. Okay, here they are. All right, trying to run us down. Okay, now Frank's going to give you some information on some other nippers up the coast when he comes into the show. But do you think we're batting up the wrong tree? I don't think we are, guys. All right, we know what's going on. Okay, and for all those people now that are going to have
I don't know what batting up the wrong tree is. I think he means climbing up the wrong tree, but, let's not place any aspersions around his intellectual capacity.
You get me for I didn't stop your nippers, guys. The Mercury stopped your nippers, okay? And
Yep, I had nothing to do with it. My hands are clean. Didn't say anything, didn't offer any suggestions or talk to anything about any of this in a negative way. I'm completely free of it. What a
surf life saving. Why couldn't they just took the flags down for the week and then had a rediscussion on?
Oh, that's right. I think it was about pride flags that were up. That was basically all that it was about from memory. It's just freaking pathetic.
No, they won't do that. No, they'll just cancel the whole event and make me out to be the ogre. You know what I mean?
Well, if the glove fits, buddy, I suggest you wear it.
I called them out, and I stand by it. So, Grace Crivellaro from the Illawarra Mercury, you'll be hearing from me, darling.
Oh, someone else to sue. He must have a very busy life. I don't know whether he's got much time for anything else, because he must spend most of his time in court suing all these people who just call him out for what he is.
Okay. You're a silly young lass. You shouldn't have done that. And, we'll be taking action. So there you go. That's the way it goes. So, Kazza, come on in. Bring Mark in. Bring Frank in. We'll have a chat about Canberra. How are you, dear?
Hi, good.
They're at it.
Hi, guys.
They're at it full house. They're trying to rip us apart.
Guys.
So how's give us an update on Canberra, Mark. We know you got to get in and out. So give us a rundown on what's happening down.
You're going to love this bit. So Mark from Canberra is a conspiracy theorist and an anti-vaxxer, obviously. And so this conversation is about putting up these A4 sheets of paper with people who have either been affected by or have died, as they say, as a result of being vaccinated. I do need to add that if being vaccinated was such a horrific issue, it in itself, given the number of people that are vaccinated, would be a health crisis that we would all be aware of. And I have been vaccinated 4 times, no side effects. I guess according to these guys, I probably should have died by now, but I haven't, clearly. And I should have suffered some sort of traumatic side effect. And I think that when we look at this stuff, I guess what's really important is for us to understand that people, this might seem really strange to a lot of you, but people die. They die all the time. I don't know how many deaths there were in Australia today, but I would imagine there would have been quite a few. There's a good chance that some of those people that have died would have died regardless of whether they had a vaccine or not. So when people die, who may have died anyway, and they just happen to have had the vaccine, then of course that has to be linked to the fact that they were vaccinated, because without being vaccinated, they would not have died anyway. And it's just illogical, doesn't make any sense to me. So if I died tomorrow, then, and I've got been vaccinated 4 times, does that mean that it is because of the vaccine? I think people, if someone dies and it's not a terminal disease, they have a heart attack or they have some sort of condition in their heart that misfunctions, or they have a blood clot or whatever, or they have an aneurysm, then I guess, and it's sudden and it happened soon after a vaccine, I guess people could argue, and I accept that maybe it was the vaccine. Maybe not. Maybe it would have happened anyway. Maybe it's their lifestyle. Maybe it's something else. Or maybe it's just bloody bad luck. But it doesn't mean that it's the vaccine. And if people develop a condition of some sort that they weren't expecting, then that condition that they've got is not necessarily the cause of the vaccine. People get conditions for all sorts of reasons, and they get diagnosed with all sorts of different diseases at different times, because that is kind of life. But these guys wouldn't understand that because they're not that smart. So they would have to, so they equate all of that stuff to being vaccinated. So what you're about to see when this guy shows you this woman walking around this garden, and they've got all these posters up with all these people that have either got these conditions or whatever, this is the explanation I would offer, is that this is the reason why. But they're not smart enough to figure that out. And people are, I think, so fearful often because of COVID-19. And these people are obsessed with this sense of freedom, as you'll hear my friend Mark Canberra talk about in a second. They're so obsessed with this idea that sometimes they just get it so wrong.
There, brother.
Well, Canberra's going really well at the moment. There's heaps of activities happening around Canberra. They've had all sorts of festivals, and there's a big festival coming up. And on Monday, they're celebrating 110 years of Canberra being in existence. And so plenty of opportunity to do our pop-ups. We've been very successful with what I like to call the field of broken dreams, where it's basically information from people that have...
This is the one I'm talking about, which you're about to see. This is the field of broken dreams. Very nice language, though, I must confess.
Been killed or injured from the back. And it really allows these people to have a voice because they've been made them voiceless. And it's been very powerful because we don't have to actually do anything.
Well, clearly they're not voiceless. If they're able to demonstrate, if they're able to put up these little placards that they do, if they're able to have people like you talk about it on social media, and, I'm watching this, so clearly I'm hearing what you guys are saying, and there are lots of other people that do, then I would suggest that you're not voiceless. I don't know where you get this shit from, frankly.
Anything, we just simply put it up and sit back, and people will come up and talk to us when they want to. And it's
Yeah, there's
touched thousands of people.
it's pretty moving, eh? When you walk around and have a look at it all, you know what I mean? We
Where's
got that little
that?
film clip there, Cass.
Yeah,
We'll play a bit of this, guys, but this is what they're doing now down in Canberra, and you know this is what's got to
Down at
happen,
Little
guys.
Burley Markets today.
Now, I do have to say, I don't know who they're connected to that gets all of these clips. There must be a range of conspiracy sites that accumulate this crap that they tend to put up, because they come up with lots of it. And Kaz is forever, searching through the internet, trying to find some of these conspiracy theories. And so she's come up with this one.
But it's time for a live. Haven't done one for a while. These people all get labelled
Burley Griffith.
anti-vaxxers, except they've all had the vaccine. They all believed in the science. And
Because the thing is, are we not supposed to believe in science? So, if we're not going to believe that the scientists are saying vaccines work, and you have a disease that needs to be treated medically, and you're clearly, if you're not going to believe that the vaccines work, then you're not going to believe the surgeon or the medical practitioner who tells you that this is the best solution to the problem medically. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't other solutions, admittedly, but do you choose at that point to simply say it doesn't matter what the medical advice is. I am not going to believe that medical advice simply because it came from a doctor? Or is it because if this medical advice is going to limit my ability to be able to associate with other people, to quarantine myself so that I'm not infecting other people, to lock myself away because the government believes that's a good thing, and that's protecting people. If I'm told, therefore, by these medical practitioners that I should be doing that and I choose not to, does that mean then that I should never, ever adhere to or take the advice of medical practitioners where they're telling me that I should do something that I believe prohibits my freedom? So if I am ill and I'm told I have to stay in hospital, or if I'm ill and I'm told that I have to quarantine in hospital because what I've got might infect other people, then should I just have the freedom to be able to say, bugger you, I'm going to go out to the community and I'm going to infect my friends, my relatives, my children and others because I don't believe you? No, it doesn't give you that right at all. But these people, unfortunately, think that it does.
now they've all got a terrible story to tell. 42.
So we're getting a bit of public turning up, Mark, and seeing it.
Alopecia.
We
So talk about someone who's got alopecia. Alopecia is where your head falls out. I had it years ago by the looks of things. It's not very pleasant for women, I know, but, is that caused by the vaccine? Who knows? I know lots of people that have got alopecia long before we had to be vaccinated. So it's a load of crap.
have thousands of people over the last month have seen it.
Blood clots.
Thousands
Unreal.
of people.
Neurological.
And all ages.
And do you remember?
Blood clots. Remember at the time when flying in an aeroplane, they believed if you were stationary for a lot of time, that there were some people that had blood clots that caused heart failure. I don't know if that meant then that we should never fly in an aeroplane again for fear that we might get a blood clot, or whether or not they advised us if you were likely to suffer from that sort of condition, then you should just get up and walk around all the time, or you take an aspirin. So, I don't know.
Remember 12 months ago, almost 12 months ago to the date, The Guardian ran a headlines, Canberra, the most fully vaxxed city in the world. And then you've got this 12 months later, 12 months.
I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Canberra fully vaxxed, and then suddenly they've got a dozen signs saying that these people have acquired certain conditions from which they believe came from the virus. It doesn't it doesn't work. It doesn't equate. It doesn't make sense. But, I guess you can draw any bizarre conclusion you want based on your own set of ideas, no matter how crazy they are.
Months later.
Yeah, it's really moving to be there, and but the majority of people take it on board, like they read it. You can see all sorts of reactions from being fearful for themselves to being really shocked.
Yeah.
And so, with activities on everywhere, we have plenty of opportunity. And the other thing is we've got the Governor General's having an open house on.
Yeah, I like this because here's Mark. Now, Mark thinks that the open house at Canberra is something that a million people could turn up to. I don't think so. He actually believes that he'll be able to turn up there and talk to the governor about him signing a proclamation.
For Paddy's Day, wondering whether he's putting the beer on. And also on Monday, it's 3 years since he signed the Federal Pandemic Act, which enforced the federal pandemic, which at that point no state law applied to the pandemic.
Now, I'm going to leave it there because I'll bore you silly. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take us to, this is the Pandemic Act he's referring to, just to show what an idiot he is. It's the Human Biosecurity Emergency Declaration Explainer. So this is about, this was published on the 19th of March 2020 and as updated on 27th of March 2020 to reflect further government measures in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The outbreak was the 18th of March 2020 in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. The Governor-General declared that a human biosecurity emergency exists. The declaration, and remember this is as a response of the government asking him to. He's just a mouthpiece for the government. So he has really no powers apart from just signing pieces of paper. The declaration gives the Minister for Health expansive powers to issue directions and set requirements in order to combat the outbreak. This is the first time this power under the Biosecurity Act has been used. The Act was made under Section 475 of the Biosecurity Act. It clearly states that human coronavirus pandemic potential is an infectious disease. These dudes are disputing that, but, it is what it is. That has entered Australia territory, that is fatal in some cases, and that there was no vaccine against or antiviral treatment for immediately before the commencement of this instrument, and that is posing a severe and immediate threat to human health on a nationally significant scale. The declaration is enforced from the 18th of March 2020 for 3 months. So the declaration had an expiry date. These guys tend to make you think that this went on forever. And this is called the Human Biosecurity Emergency Period. So under what circumstances human biosecurity emergency declared? Can be engaged for use in relation to listed human diseases, so that's a range of human diseases that are listed, or a national significant scale. The declaration is necessary to prevent or control the entry of the listed human disease into Australia or the emergency establishment or spread of the listed human disease in Australia. On the 21st of January 2020, human coronavirus pandemic potential was added to this particular list. The World Health Organisation is known as COVID-19, okay? So during the human biosecurity emergency period, the Health Minister may issue any direction for any person, determine any requirement. The Minister considers, this is the Minister, so it's got nothing to do with the Governor, so lay off him. Prevent or control the entry to emergency establishment or spread of COVID, prevent or control the spread of COVID, implement a World Health Organisation recommendation around COVID, and they must be satisfied and the direction requirement is likely to be effective in or contribute to achieving the purpose for which it is to be given, appropriate and adapted to achieve the purpose for which it is to be given, no more restrictive or intrusive than is required in the circumstances. If a requirement, the manner in which the requirement is to be applied is no more restrictive and intrusive than required in the circumstances, and if the direction requirement is to apply during a period, that period is only as long as is necessary, and they've already stated that was for 3 months. The bit that I wanted to also read is, so this is the reason. So the reasons why so it was about, because the federal government deals with international travel, immigration, stuff like that, and therefore they are responsible for people coming into the country, which is ships. And so so there is something. So this is a bit. The control generally of customs grants permission on the basis the ship is in distress or others. So it was about international cruise ships. So this is one of the reasons why it was put in place and why the federal government was. So the overseas travel ban has a number of exemptions because that is really what this is all about as well. A person, ordinary resident in a country other than Australia, a person who is a member of a crew of an aircraft or vessel, that makes sense. A person engaged in the day-to-day conduct of inbound and outbound. A person whose travel is associated with essential work. A person who's travelling on official government business. Limitations are that a direction must not be given under Section 1 to an officer or employee of a state, territory, or state or territory body unless the direction is in accordance with an agreement between the Commonwealth and the state, territory or body. There is an intergovernmental agency for national partnership, and there was the national. They used to meet on a Friday to discuss that stuff. How long can you bodies do this? It's a subject for if required that the period less no longer than the minister considers necessary to prevent or control the entry, emergence, establishments. This isn't about lasting forever. The current declaration is for 3 months. Boom, boom. So, so their argument that, well, their belief, I think, is that this was supposed to last forever, and that it is primarily about shipping, people coming in and out of the country, that sort of stuff, and making sure that the virus doesn't spread any more than what it should, that they could try and control that, which is what the government did try and do. Not very successfully in some cases, but at least we tried. So that's my take. If you've got any ideas about anything that I've talked about, please let me know. And subscribe. I'm not going to harp on these dudes all that long because I find them a wee bit irritating. But the point is that to find an argument that conflicts with their argument is not all that hard to do. There's a wonderful, wonderful invention now on the internet called Google. And you could argue that you can look up whatever you like on Google and it will probably fit with your own specific values and beliefs, whatever they might be. And I guess there's some truth in that. But if you want to go direct to the source, which in this case was the government, you probably get a more accurate version of what the truth was. So when this guy talked about this proclamation or whatever he was carrying on about, he was talking about the Biosecurity Emergency Act. So there you go. So hope you enjoyed that. Look, there'll be more to come. So please subscribe, ring the bell, let me know what you think, and I look forward to joining you next time. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.